and good evening. We're in City Council committee meetings tonight, and we'll have finance and personnel, and we will also have planning and development. Tonight for finance and personnel we have several items, but before I begin that, even though Michelle Pappy is not with us here tonight, she sends a message. She had heard that the University and Schooley and Caldwell are hosting a public meeting tomorrow night, 6 to 7:30 p.m. in Building 21 at the Ridges, and that's kind of a meet and greet to look at the next steps in designing the long-range plan for the Ridges. And I think there's a meeting earlier in the day also that President Sands will be attending. So just to know, the public's invited, 6 to 7:30, Tuesday night, June 10th, Building 21 of the Ridges, to meet with Schooley and Caldwell. Our first item for finance and personnel tonight has to do with the arts, parks, and recreation. And several weeks ago, the director, Rich Campitelli, and former Mayor Rick Abel, who's now chair of the Recreation Advisory Committee, came and presented to council an idea for looking forward to the community center as the bond for the community center building itself comes to an end in 2016. And the concept is for some continued support of arts, parks, and recreation beyond the community center, and looking at some of the broader issues like a pool that's desperately in need of replacing that was built in 1972, as well as looking at additional accessibility features in our parks locations around the city, and then also looking at maintenance and upkeep of these areas and some of the areas that we'll be developing, as well as possible other projects, and always looking to an eye to make sure we have enough funds for maintenance and upkeep for the arts, parks, and recreation programs. And thanks to Clerk of Council Debbie Walker and Law Director employee Lisa Eliason, who spent some time today looking at some of the items that we need to be thinking about as we look to placing us on the ballot. Just a little bit of background about the process. City council members need to be considering an ordinance if they will have a ballot item come before the citizens this fall. And in order to do that, we would need to be looking at legislation in July so that it could be filed with the Board of Elections office in the appropriate time by August 6th so that it could get on the fall ballot. Debbie Walker and Lisa Eliason looked at some of the issues because it was a little bit, I think there were some questions about how we proceed with it, and want to make sure that we have everything in order as city council members in the ordinance that we move forward on that. As we looked at the language that the Recreation Advisory Committee was suggesting, one of the issues was about having a replacement levy. And what they found out for us is that the replacement levy is limited only to the purpose of the existing levy. So the old levy, you might remember, was just for the community center. And so what we're now considering going forward is much broader than that. So one possibility that it could be considered would be to come up with an amendment of the current levy and broadening that expansion. And then that could be looked at on this fall's ballot, and then a second ballot issue could come forward a year later to then actually fund portions of it now with the amended part. So that's one possible course of action. In talking with some of the people in the city administration who know the arts, parks, and recreation, there is the possibility of another suggestion, and that would be letting our current levy expire on December 31st, 2016, as it's already worded, and then have a new levy that would come on the ballot, and it would propose to be for likely 20 years, and it would propose to have a 1-year overlap with the old levy. And what this would mean in terms of what this might cost to the taxpayers would be, the current levy is .1, so that's $1 for every $1,000 worth of income tax paid. And so for somebody who earns $30,000 a year, then that would mean it's $100. Yeah, it's $30 a year. Excuse me, get my math right at this time in the evening. So if we had the 1 year overlap, that would be the old levy at .1, the new levy coming in with an additional .1. So for that 1 year overlap time, it would mean for taxpayers that they would be paying $60 per year if they earned an average income of $30,000, and then it would be $30 the following year when it drops back to 1%. And I think Auditor Hecht and I know Deputy Auditor Kreider have been looking at some of the numbers. So we're thinking that the .1 would generate about $600,000 a year. Is that correct?
$650,000.
Okay.
A little more.
Okay.
A year or two from now.
Right. Okay.
Should be at least that.
So that's the one suggestion, is letting the current levy expire as is. We do have some clarifications that we need to work through, I think, with bond counsel as the current levy expires, what will happen with that revenue. So we'll be needing to work on that. One other piece of information for council members and for citizens as well is that city income tax, what is taxable and non-taxable income, is different than what it is at the state or federal level. So you might have filed that you had $30,000 worth of income at the federal level, but it might not be that much at the city. And so if citizens are interested in looking at what's taxable or non-taxable income, they can go to the website to take a look at those examples of what is taxable. Reactions from council members? Comments? Yes.
I would just like to share a couple things. One is that this has been a long, ongoing process in just talking about either renewing the levy or whatever form things move forward. I have to really acknowledge former Mayor Rick Abel for chairing the Arts, Parks, and Recreation Advisory Board and being thoughtful and working through what the next step should be, what the plan should be for Arts, Parks, and Recreation, as well as Rich Campitelli, who has been spearheading a lot of this as well, and reaching out to the community. There was a large survey that went out. Some of you may remember there was a survey that went out several years ago, trying to see what are items that the citizens care about when it comes to Arts, Parks, and Recreation, where should we focus. So that has all gone into the planning process for moving forward, and it's been in the conversations in looking at the levy. Another thing, too, is with the option where we're moving forward finding that it's acceptable to have a new levy and letting the existing levy sunset with that 1 year of overlap, to keep in mind that there's still half of that, or $30. If you're making $30,000, that 1 in 1,000 is still going towards the community center levy, and $1 then per thousand will be going towards this new levy, which will allow for planning and working forward, getting things rolling under the new levy, whether it's looking at ADA elements to go into our city parks, revamping our city parks, looking at the pool, looking at Arts West, whatever it is. And it's more global, that the current levy is just for, as Member Magsaye said, it is just for the community center and the community center furnishings, equipment, and whatnot. This would be much broader. This would be the entire city for all of Arts, Parks, and Recreation. So.
Yes, Councilmember Butler.
Thank you. I appreciate the update on that, and I appreciate the hard work from the executive branch and the auditor. Planner Paul Logue, who has been instrumental in helping us move forward and considering long-term strategic planning for Arts, Parks, and Recreation. So I think this again falls into the data we're receiving from the citizens, which is we want to be an active community. We want to continue and enhance our facilities and resources. So I'm looking forward to continue conversation as we're looking at the possible options here.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will let you know as council members that we're looking at a very short time frame.
July.
July. We need 3 readings of an ordinance to move forward. We would actually potentially, if we could answer or find answers to all of the remaining questions that we have, legislation could come forward as soon as next week. One reading on the regular council session in June, then that leaves us the first and third Mondays in July for ordinance readings again. Worst case scenario, if we had additional questions to work out, is that there is a 5th Monday in June that we normally don't meet, but we might need to call a special session or see about that. So, yes.
I just need
Acting
to point out, I'm acting mayor, Mayor Paul Royal is out of town. Whatever form we decide to choose, replacement of our swimming is a large part of that plan. There will be other plans going forward also, but the pool is and the pool is not mentioned for any funding in our current.
In the current one, that's correct. And the estimates, I think, this is just very ballpark that I've heard from years ago, was an estimate of maybe $4 million for replacing the pool. So it's a large amount. It's a huge commitment. But on the other hand, as I think many of us agreed, and I think Councilmember Cochran mentioned, it's all about the quality of life for a community, and recreation is part of it, and arts and parks, and so that's all one package for us. So we need to, I think all of us council members are feeling and thinking that we need to be able to support all 3 legs of those activities for the city. Yes, Councilmember Cochran.
I appreciate Acting Mayor Sands pointing out the importance of the pool because, we're into the summer and unfortunately the pool did get up and running yet again this summer, but it seems like it's always touch and go at this point with our existing pool. And, I know that for families with children, the pool is very important. For a lot of seniors who would like to use the pool as a form of exercise, across the ages and across, all demographics of our community, swimming is an important part of our recreational activities here in Athens. And so, that it's really important to remember that without this levy, we will not have a new pool. There's absolutely no way to fund it without a levy like this. So that's important to remember. And also to remind folks to please check out the master plan for the Arts, Parks, and Recs. If you have not yet read that, it is available on the city's webpage, and that talks a lot about other plans for the city's parks, and as well as in passive recreation, which is really important in our city.
Yes, Auditor Hecht.
I was just going to mention something that we talked about at our meeting just a little while ago, is that the city would probably also issue bonds to do whatever improvements, including possibly a pool, rather than wait until all the money has come in, that we would do like we did for the community center, start the tax, take out bonds and pay those off and be able to go ahead and make these improvements sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks for all the comments. We'll be hearing more in the next few weeks, I'm sure. Next finance item has to do with track hoe and also several other pieces of, one other piece of equipment. Many of you have probably heard that in mid-May there was an evening accident where a private citizen's car brakes failed. It went down the hill on 2nd Street, through the entrance to where our Street and Public Works Department is located. It hit the building in which our new track hoe was stored, also hit another vehicle there. So it's called a flush truck. and it's used in our water repair operations. So they're both very critical pieces of equipment. Nationwide Insurance was the company with whom this private individual was insured, and as I understand, we are in settlement with them for the damages that occurred. What we have tonight is my attempt to do an explanation on the math of what happened with all of this, and I'll try and make it brief and to the point, and so nobody will glaze over. You may remember earlier this year that we had authorized $65,000 for the purchase of a new track hoe. And in fact, I think the track hoe was only a day or two old when it was hit. And so that was $65,000 was authorized. We spent $57,000 for the track hoe. And what we have been advised by the equipment company is you could repair the old track hoe, but you'll never know what might go another part where some damage that's unseen now might appear after 10, 20, 100 hours of operation. And it seems that best judgment is to replace that track hoe. We could spend $8,500 to repair the old one, but it seems to make sense from everybody's perspective, city employees as well as the equipment company, rather than spend the $8,500 on repairing, we can get a replacement for $9,600. So an additional $1,100 is what we would need to spend to have a new one, totally replacing it. So in order, if council seems to think that's agreeable, and to spend that additional money, the $1,100 for the new track hoe, this puts us over the original authorization of $65,000 by a few $1,000s. So the auditor's office has very clearly outlined the next steps that we need to do, and this is the track hoe portion of it. So the damaged track hoe should be paid for. We hadn't paid for it yet. We need to pay that. Get it listed as a fixed asset. And then a new ordinance needs to be issued to dispose of that existing damaged track hoe. And then we'll need to request the additional money needed to purchase the new track hoe. Now, we will be getting settlement from the insurance company for basically all but the $1,100. And then we'll have a new purchase order for the purchase of the new track hoe. Now, if I'm understanding correctly, we may also need to make a transfer from the sewer debt fund to the sewer fund.
That's for the flush truck.
Oh, that's my next step. That's step number 2. Okay. All right. So next truck, next piece of damaged equipment, and that is the flush truck. And we will need some money to come out of the. That also needs to be replaced, and we will need some money to come out of the sewer debt fund, which has a healthy balance in it right now of $1.4 million. So we need to transfer a little bit of the money over from the sewer debt fund into the sewer fund so that we have enough money to pay for the replacement of the flush truck. And all of these ordinances, at least for the purchase of the new and replacements of these, the track hoe and flush truck would probably need to come through with suspending, I would think, because these are the pieces of equipment that help us when we have water breaks and sewer problems and everything else. So it's really critical to get this forward. Now, let me check my notes to see, is there other information? Let's see. We would need that the money. See if there's anything else. I think that's most of the math. Is that correct?
Sounds like it. I just, to make you aware, we can't afford a brand new flush truck. We're getting a new to us flush truck, but it is used on a regular basis as of course, the track hoe that he's wanted for so long. So.
Yes.
What is the age? Did you mention what the age of the
flush truck
current
is
flush truck?
80s,
Yeah, it's quite old.
early 80s. It's old.
Yeah. This is a newer, yet
Yes.
old.
He says it's
flush
a, you know,
truck.
he,
New to
yeah,
us.
would he love to have one? Yes. Can he really justify that out of the operating budget he has? He can't.
Okay.
So.
All right. So yes, Councilmember Reisner.
Yeah, a couple questions. The other damage, the garage, the doors were destroyed.
Did I get that right? Okay, so how are we paying for that?
We are, again, the insurance companies are talking.
And we will be able to do the repairs to the building, most of the repairs ourselves, but we will be, we'll be reimbursed for the costs, for the expenses.
And you mentioned that with the settlement and everything, we're still going to have to come up with $1,100 to cover the track hoe. Is that right?
Well, not necessarily. Depends on what the settlement is. The reason council needs to appropriate that is because of the amount of money, the authorization to spend for the original flush truck is $65,000. So you will be disposing of a vehicle and appropriating an additional amount. And I guess it just depends on how much it is. But yes, $10,000 would probably need to be appropriated in their budget. If it ends up being $2,000, maybe they already have it. But then the service safety director has to be given authorization to purchase this new truck again with whatever money is needed. Because it's a major purchase.
Right.
And the fact is we're getting basically a trade-in value for the old one.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is that if in the event the insurance settlement says, okay, well, here, we're going to give you this much, take it or leave it, okay, so we take it, and we're still paying out of our own pocket for damage done by this guy's accident. Now, is there any plans to go after the person who caused the accident to recoup the costs that we're now paying?
Again, I'd leave that up to my insurance coverage, and they are working towards that. What happened in this particular case related to the track hoe is because we had purchased it, taken it off the lot, we had it on our property, they'd be happy to repair it. Andy is not comfortable with that. You know, he had a brand new track hoe. He wants a brand new track hoe. And the way that the vehicle hit it looks to have hit the rubber skids. So you have no idea of knowing whether or not this is going to be back to straight off the lot.
Right.
And kind of like we decided we're viewing it as an insurance deductible. Even though we're victims, we're going to have to pay that.
Right, but even if we go through the insurance, we're not waiving our rights to sue to recover anything that we are out of pocket for. Is that correct?
Again, I'm not the attorney in the room, but I would assume that everything will still be out there. But we do need the $1,100 in order to just purchase the
Yeah,
truck.
I don't mind appropriating $1,100, but I also like to have the option open that I know that there is a good potential possibility that we can recover that $1,100 and put it back in the general fund. So we're not out anything. I mean, we're not responsible for this accident, you know.
I feel the same way, but I mean,
Right. Someone should pay, okay? Yeah, I feel sorry for the person who had the accident, but I feel sorry for us too. Okay?
I get it, Jeff, and I feel the same. I was just as frustrated. Why should I have to pay out one dime when I'm a victim? But in order to get the new track hoe, as opposed to turning it into them and for some refurbishing, we'll need the $1,100.
And I think we can move forward with the legislation. I would be comfortable in the Finance Committee recommending we move forward. But I hear what you're saying. So duly noted, Councilmember Reisner, that we would, like all the powers that be within the city to be looking out for our best interests and in recouping as much of the money as we can.
Right.
Okay. Yes.
And
Councilmember
just as an
Patterson.
aside, I hear what you're saying as well, but I do want to share that, and people may be aware of this, that no one was harmed. I mean, and no one was hurt. That I think is paramount with this whole story. When you look at the damage that was done and a runaway car going down 2nd Avenue, which is a pretty steep hill, I'm just happy that things weren't worse.
There's always that point of view.
There is.
There is.
We're glad to have all points of view on this council here tonight.
Still have
Okay. All right. We have some other finance items. One of them is what's titled an appropriation for the tourism fund. And I will briefly review that and how we've changed that over the years and my understanding of where we are with that, the tourism fund right now. The funding for the tourism fund comes from parts of the transient guest tax, which is 6% tax charged on rooms in the hotels and motels. And right now, the Ohio Revised Code designates that at least 50% of it's for tourism. So we deposit 50, we had in the past deposited 50% to the tourism fund, 50% to our city general fund. And when Deputy Auditor Ray Hazlett was here, he helped us move forward with a recommendation because we were constantly during the year making adjustments and transfers. And so he said what would probably be better is to move forward with a different split. And his recommendation at that time was 70% to tourism, 30% to the general fund, until the city meets the existing contractual obligations with our local tourism bureaus. But right now, we find ourselves, we have the revenue in the account, but not enough has been appropriated. And so what we need to do is modify, we're going to do two things. The auditor's office is going to be modifying the resources to correctly reflect the city's cash resources, and then we'll also be transferring $15,000 of unused money that is currently in what's called other structures account within the tourism fund. And so they'll be transferring that over, and then we'll need to appropriate $15,000, that $15,000 from the one other structures account into the other, but we don't need to transfer any money from the general fund right now.
Right.
Okay.
As you said, and you have brought this up in many meetings, and none of us could remember, but council did pass an ordinance in 2012 stating that any extra money would go ahead and put in there. So our accounts payable person, Heather, believes that the revenue will come in by the end of the year, but we do need an additional appropriation because we appropriated $9,300 or something like that, and we actually paid out $110,000 last year. So we need to make up that difference. So the appropriation would be $15,000 or so. Right. But we don't believe we're going to need a transfer at this time.
Okay.
Just additional appropriation.
Appropriation, then, just the additional appropriation. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, next item is just an informational item that we do have a retirement payout that the city will be having for a retiring police officer, and that's going to be approximately $32,500. And this is a payout of unused sick leave, and our payout stipulates that we pay out up 1/4 of the sick leave accumulated up to 45 days. And then of vacation on the payout, no more than 3 years of vacation can accumulate. So I'm not sure of the exact numbers of this particular person, but the amount that it will be effective is $32,500 payout.
And this employee is a police officer who will also get paid some holiday and longevity payout because they don't take holidays throughout the year. And so those will be prorated for the point in the year when this person leaves. So that will be some additional payout money.
And then we also will have need to appropriate, and I have a very exact number. I don't know if we want to round this up or not. $1,022.38. I would say $1,100 maybe might be an easier number to remember.
You can, but we have an exact list of checks.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, I'm fine with the $1,022.38, and these are for unclaimed funds, some of which were tax refunds and parking refunds. So, and we have that.
And actually, even though we're not required to try to refund unclaimed funds under $50,000, we do. Our practice is to do that, especially for tax refunds. Mm-hmm. If they had a refund coming, didn't cash the check, lost it, or whatever, we do try to find them, and so we have the letters ready to go as soon as the money's available, so that people can come in and get a new check issued. If they follow up on that.
Well, that's helpful to the citizens. So thanks for doing that. And thanks to the auditor's office staff. And I think that has it for the miscellaneous items, unless Auditor Hecht has something else.
I have one. I think we need to appropriate the $100,000 in transportation to purchase the bus and van. Is that we took the loan out for?
No, okay.
But now that we have
That's
the money.
very important.
Yes, I just picked the check up today after council did their part and we did all the paperwork.
Okay.
And so now that we have the money, it needs to be appropriated.
Okay. Okay. And that's all I think we have for finance and personnel.
Okay. Well, we have a couple items for Planning and Development Committee here. And as Vice Chair, I guess I'll speak to both of them. First, it's on our agenda is the CDBG Residential Assistant Plan. Next week, our regular council meeting will be introducing an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute the Ohio Fiscal Year 2014 Community Development Block Grant Allocation Program Residential Anti-Displacement and Relocation Assistant Plan and declaring an emergency. And I think everyone has a copy of the, is that right? The ordinance, do you have a copy?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, let's see, I can go through here. Whereas the Residential Anti-Displacement and Relocation Assistance Plan is in accordance with 0144-89 has been amended, and whereas an updated plan has been requested for submission with our current Community Development Block Grant CDBG application, be it ordained by the Council of the City of Athens, Section 1 and 2. It's fairly cut and dried, but so we'll submit that for council declaring an emergency, but I think it'll still go through the 3 readings. Is that correct?
The deadline is June 20th.
Oh, that's right. Good. We've got to get rid of these cataracts. In order to meet the June 20th, okay, so I guess we'll have to suspend rules then, too. So as much as I hate to do that, well, it's got to be done, so we'll do that. Second item here, this is from the Athens Metropolitan Housing Authority, sent to the mayor. Subject, Blue Line Avenue Permanent Supportive Housing. And the letter that's been passed out is the purpose of this letter is to appraise your office at the Athens Metropolitan Housing Authority plans to be the owner, developer, property manager of a residential rental development located in or within a 1/2 mile radius of your political jurisdiction. Specifically, this is on Blue Line Avenue. It will consist of 6 2-bedroom units. The units currently exist in the community of Athens and have been purchased and will be rehabilitated as affordable permanent supportive housing. So on. And then at in the back here, it goes on to say that the right to submit comments. This is speaking to the legislative body in particular, but it says you have the right to submit comments to the agency regarding the proposed project impact on the community, and that objection to the project must be submitted in writing and signed by a majority of the voting members of the legislative body. That's us. And it gives the address, which is in Columbus, but for concerned citizens, there's no reason why they couldn't contact the authority itself if they have comments, concerns. They'd be the most qualified to answer them, since we're just now finding out, at least I am, about this. So that's all I can speak to about that. I have nothing under miscellaneous. You have?
I failed to make you aware, Jeff, but the farmers market is graciously going to allow ODOT's consultants to present Saturday at the market. So they will be there, set up with the same displays of what were displayed at the Community Center for the East State Streets Safety Study, trying to seek and more comments and more engagement from citizens.
So that'll be at the farmers market, 9 to 12?
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning, under a tent or something?
Good.
That's good.
They said they'd find us a space. Look for
Hopefully.
the man in the yellow jacket, I think is what I said.
Anyone else have any comments for planning and development?
I do have a question.
Yes.
I mean, Athens Metropolitan, this is back to the apartment units that Athens Metropolitan Housing Authority is going to manage. And that's an organization that the community has worked with for a number of years, and they do a good job, I think, with from everything I've seen and read about this. But two questions. Is Blue Line off West
Union? Correct.
Okay. And then, are these units currently occupied? Just a technicality question of, are they currently occupied? They're going to rehab them and then offer them back to the people that are living there? Or?
Oh, well, that would go along with that anti-displacement relocation.
Got it.
I
Okay.
do not know that they are currently occupied, but they do plan on renovating them. And then this is the supportive housing model. So that means that they'll have different assistance coming, providers providing assistance for these as they...
Well, that's a great idea, too, just to round out for the community some, different levels of housing available. So, sounds like a good idea.
So we'll make the assumption they're meeting all the necessary standards and,
Oh, yes.
yeah, so.
Federal money. Mhm.
Mhm. That's it.